All right, guys, what is up? Welcome back to Hood History. So today we're going to do another book intro. So this book is honestly one of my favorites ever. I mean, they all really are, but this one really is. And basically what it's about is how he let what was supposed to be a private newspaper agency for the president become one of the most horrible government or one of the most horrible terrorism groups that was ever created. And so without further ado, we're going to hop into it. This book is called Legacy of Ashes, A History of the CIA by Tim Weiner. And let me simply say, Tim Weiner has to be absolutely fucking huge to make this book. And he's still alive. He's still alive. He didn't get the Hillary Clinton treatment. But this is about to get really, really deep. Let's go. It's going to be fun. All right, so without further ado, here is our first excerpt from page 3. All Harry Truman wanted was a newspaper. Catapulted into the White House by the death of President Franklin D. Roosevelt on April 12, 1945, Truman knew nothing about the development of the atomic bomb or the intentions of his Soviet allies. He needed information to use his power. When I took over, he wrote in a letter to a friend years later, the president had no means of coordinating the intelligence from around the world. Roosevelt had created the Office of Strategic Services under the command of General William J. Donovan as an American wartime intelligence agency, but Donovan's OSS was never built to last. When the new Central Intelligence Agency arose from its ashes, Truman wanted it to serve him solely as a global news service delivering daily bulletins. It was not intended as a cloak and dagger outfit, he wrote. It was intended merely as a center for keeping the president informed on what was going on in the world. He insisted that he never wanted the CIA to act as a spy organization. That was never the intention when it was organized. His vision was subverted from the start. So what this little excerpt is about is pretty much the creation of the CIA and what it was meant to do. So like one of the themes that you're going to find really quickly is that the CIA, yes, they do horrible things all over the world because it is filled with a group of people who are working towards their own interests and don't care about others and are taking advantage of people. But a major part of it is also literally that they just suck at their job that bad. Like my brain wants to start ranting, but I'm just going to let the history speak for us, and we're going to move on. Just know CIA sucks at their job. We're never meant to do what they're doing. They were meant to be a private newspaper agency for the president. All right, so Exhibit A of the CIA sucking at their job. We're going to talk about the Korean War, the CIA's role in it, which was to collect intelligence for the American military, how they messed it up, and how them messing it up cost tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands, of American and Korean lives. So here we go, people. In February, March, and April 1951, more than 1,200 North Korean exiles were gathered on Yeongdo Island in the Pusan Harbor under command of the CIA Chief of Operations, Hans Toff, an OSS veteran with a greater talent for deceiving his superiors than his enemies. Toff formed 3 brigades, White Tiger, Yellow Dragon, and Blue Dragon, with 44 guerrilla teams. Their missions were threefold: to serve as intelligence-gathering infiltrators, as guerrilla warfare squads, and as escape and evasion crews to rescue downed American pilots and crews. White Tiger went ashore in North Korea at the end of April 1951. Before leaving North Korea 4 months later, Toft sent back glowing reports of his accomplishments. But by November, most of the White Tiger guerrillas were killed, captured, or missing. Blue Dragon and Yellow Dragon met similar fates. The few infiltration teams that survived were captured and forced on pain of death to deceive their American case officers with phony radio messages. None of the guerrillas made it out alive. In the spring and summer of 1952, Weiser's office dropped more than 1,500 Korean agents into the north. They sent back a flood of detailed radio reports on North Korean and Chinese communist military movements. They were heralded by the CIA station's chief in Seoul, Albert R. Haney, a glorious and ambitious army colonel who boasted openly that he had thousands of men working for him on guerrilla operations and intelligence missions. Some of his fellow Americans thought Haney was a dangerous fool. William W. Thomas Jr., a State Department political intelligence officer in Seoul, suspected that the station chief had a payroll filled with people who were controlled by the other side. So did John Lyndon Hart, who replaced Haney as the Seoul chief of stations in September 1952. He decided to take a hard look at the miraculous achievements claimed by his predecessors. Haney had presided over 200 CIA officers in Seoul, not one of whom spoke Korean. The station depended on recruiting Korean agents who supervised the CIA guerrilla operations and intelligence gathering missions in the North. After 3 months of digging, Hart determined that nearly every Korean agent whom he had inherited had either invented his reports or worked in secret for the communists. Every dispatch the station had sent to the CIA headquarters from the front for the past 18 months was a calculated deception. One particular report lives in my memory, Hart recounted. It purported to be a replication of all Chinese and North Korean units along the battle line, citing each unit's strength and numerical designation. American military commanders had hailed it as one of the most outstanding intelligence reports of the war. Hart determined that it was a complete fabrication. He went on to discover that all of the important Korean agents Handy had recruited, not some, but all, were con men who had for some time been living happily on generous CIA payments supposedly being sent to assets in North Korea. Almost every report we had received from their national agents came from our enemies. Long after the Korean War was over, the CIA concluded that Hart was correct. Almost all the secret information the agency had gathered during the war had been manufactured by the North Korean and Chinese secret services. The fictional intelligence was passed on to the Pentagon and then to the White House. The agency's paramilitary operations had been infiltrated by the North Koreans from the very beginning. The CIA, being a new organization whose reputation had not yet been established, simply could not admit to other branches of government, at least the least of all to the highly competitive U.S. military intelligence service, its inability to collect intelligence on North Korea. So I chose this excerpt just because it is a very good example of the CIA being very incompetent and just being unable to do their job. And we're going to see this repeated over and over and over again. And the really sad and disgusting thing about this is think about how bloody the Korean War was. Let's think about the fact that 36,000 American troops were killed, probably more, over almost 990,000 Korean civilians were killed in a conflict that killed almost 3 million people. And I'm not going to sit here and blame the CIA for all of the Korean War. We'll get to assigning blame. But no matter how you view the Korean War, many, many more people were killed, and it lasted for much, much longer because the CIA, our American intelligence service, did a horrible job. Food for thought. So we're going to get to the next one pretty fast as we're going to run out of time again. But this one is about pretty much how the CIA worked with a group of people that nobody in their right minds would work with, that literally everybody on the planet hates. Their literal name is synonymous with genocide. And you already know who I'm talking about. So here we go. During World War II, General Reinhard Glenn had tried to spy on the Soviets from the Eastern Front as a leader of the Abwehr, a certain German dictator's military intelligence. The intelligence network he offered the Americans was a group of outstanding German nationals who were good Germans but also ideologically on the side of Western democracies. The Army, unable to control the Glenn organization despite lavishly financing its operations, repeatedly tried to hand it off to the CIA. Many of Richard Helm's officers were dead set against it. "We did not want to touch it," said Peter Snell, the chief of German operations at CIA headquarters. "It had nothing to do with morals or ethics and everything to do with security." But in July 1949, under relentless pressure from the Army, the CIA took over the Gehlen Group. Housed in a former Yahtzee headquarters outside Munich, Glenn welcomed dozens of prominent war criminals into his circles. As Helms and Schnitzel had feared, the East German and Soviet intelligence services penetrated the Glenn Group at its highest levels. Gehlen's longtime chief of counterintelligence had been working for Moscow all along. I know I mispronounced his name like 7 or 8 times in a row, but it'll be all right. But there you go. The CIA quite literally working with old retired SS enforcers. And it gets a lot crazier than that. What I really want you to understand about what I just dropped here is that the CIA, bad organization, yes, but they're not that intelligent. In the 1900s, it was a bunch of rich white boys playing super spy. In the 2000s today, it's a bunch of boys playing super spies because they had to let other people into their club. And they were not thrilled about that. They were pissed. Like, that's a whole nother video. But I just wanted to, I hope this piqued your mind and you now go and do a little more research on the CIA and what you've been taught or what you think you know. And if you don't, it's okay, because I'll be back to remind you. Yeah, that's all I got for today, boys. This is Hood History signing out. Thank y'all for watching. Drop a like button, hit the follow, whatever. Leave a comment and tell me what you want us to do in the future.